Wednesday, February the 6th, 2013. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Christian Jack. I am kind of solo. I'm solo in this room. James Sharman isn't here today. But of course, as ever, my ever-present Cal Ripken producer, Will Farquharson's here. How are you, sir?
I'm good. I did break my Iron Man streak on Monday, though. I wasn't here for that podcast.
Yeah. Well, you were here, though.
I was in the building.
You were working diligently on the television show.
I was doing producer-y type things.
Instead of playing second base, Cal was playing third.
Right.
Perfect. There we go. Yeah, so we are here. It has been an international day in the world of footy. Lots of good games going on, and will continue tonight, actually, as the CONCACAF World Cup qualifying hex gets underway. But there has been the first game of that. We've just finished watching it literally 5 minutes ago in Honduras. The final whistle went. Honduras 2, USA 1. Big storyline to come out of this. We're going to chat about that shortly. We will get to some of the friendlies around the globe, including England versus Brazil. Some pretty spectacular matchups around the globe today. We'll get to some of those later in the show as well. And the semi-finals of the African Cup of Nations from South Africa took place today. We will get Gary Alsmith, expert on all things African football, on the line live from South Africa to talk about that as well. But we want to start in Honduras. Honduras 2, USA 1. Well, this was a dramatic game, and one, even though it is the first game of what is a long process here, 12 games, may have some big circumstances when it comes to the end of it, big ramifications, particularly for the Americans when it comes to trying to qualify for next year's World Cup.
Yeah, certainly. I think this game showed two things for me, KJ. The first being Honduras are who we thought they were after the 8-1 game against Canada. They continue to play well, especially at home. And the second thing is the USA continue to struggle. I mean, the last round of qualifying, they made it through all right, first place in their group, but it was Guatemala and Jamaica in that group with them, and they both gave them trouble in qualifying there. And now, you look at USA's fixtures coming up, home to Costa Rica next, and then away to Mexico, and that's those two are through March, and then they're off until June, I believe. That's not the easiest set of fixtures for the U.S., and they could be in a bit of a hole early on now.
Yeah, 3 of their first games were away from home. Obviously, this is the first of those 3. And as you mentioned, they've not been good at all throughout this qualification process so far under Jurgen Klinsmann. I'm not a betting man. I don't have an account, but anybody who wanted to talk to me about this game today, I couldn't tell them fast enough that I thought Honduras were going to win this game. I was all over them for this match. I don't want to play Monday morning quarterback. I just, as you mentioned, we're very high on the Hondurans. They grow into games. They were fit. This is why they wanted to play the game at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, 84 degrees sun. This is why they knew that they would get the better of the Americans. They didn't tire. They didn't worry when they went down 1-0. A good goal by Dempsey. Jermaine Jones put a good ball over the defense. Dempsey met it on the volley. That's what Klinsmann's bringing to this team, by the way. He wants runners from deep positions onto through balls like that. Is exactly what he built up. But they didn't. The lead didn't last 10 minutes. And if you haven't seen the goal, go find it, because you might well be seeing it on FIFA's top 10 goals of the year next year for that Farshall Ballon d'Or ceremony that they glitz up. Juan Carlos Garcia with an overhead kick of epic proportions. This goal, say what you want, and some of the commentators were clamoring to say how poor it was, not being defended well, not cleared well from the original set piece. This goal was absolutely out of this world. Climbed up, breathtaking overhead kick, smack, a little bit of a curl on it as well, past Tim Howard, and Howard's look well on his face. He just put his hands to his cheeks in just utter disbelief.
Yeah, you have some overhead kicks which really aren't that impressive. I'm thinking, Balotelli's over kick, I think it was last season,
right? Yeah.
Which is kind of a lazy overhead kick. No one was around him. This one, really, what got me about this one was the power behind it. Yeah. He absolutely smashed that.
He did, full force.
That is the beauty behind it for me. And that, of course, is my front runner for goal of the year.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, let's put it into boxing terms for a second here. Whenever you go to these places, it's very difficult. And here was a CONCACAF heavyweight going to, in many people's eyes, the home rink the home ring of a very underwhelming player, an underwhelming fighter in CONCACAF. People are not sure what they're going to get out of him, but it was a hostile environment. The USA got Honduras down early. They were on the canvas. They came back and they had some magnificent punches to the gut. That was one of the biggest ones. The US were rocking. They were on the ropes before halftime. They just had to gather themselves, get into they were basically dragged off the field at halftime. They didn't know what hit them. Came out in the second half, weren't much better. Michael Bradley, I think, was a man amongst boys. He was miles better than anybody else out there. That includes Altidore and Dempsey. He was the only good player on the field for me, for the Americans, consistently all the way through the game. And Honduras were in it in the second half. That being said, it came down to an individual error, or maybe a cohesive individual's error, between the two centre-backs, Jeff Cameron and Omar Gonzalez. Omar Gonzalez and Jeff Cameron had never played together. Never, not once, at centre-back for the Americans before, and it showed, particularly in the crucial moment with 10 minutes to go, when a simple 1-2 pass very easily just went through them. Cameron, for some reason, was delayed in getting to the original man, Costley. The ball came across. Gonzalez took an extra step and a look to get Bankston, and Bankston had the beating of him to put it home 2-1 far too easily, and that's ultimately why the Americans lost the game, because of the error in defence. Yeah,
I think a 1-1 draw, really for both sides, would have been a good result for them and would have been realistic. But yeah, those mistakes can really come back and hurt you later on. And I know it's early and none of the other matches have even taken place in this hexagonal round.
Right.
But early indicators that USA could be in some trouble here. And Honduras, hey, they might be going back to the World Cup.
They might be. I mean, we don't know. There's a long way to go yet. But for me, the substitutions that Klinsmann made in the second half, far too early. He used them all by the 65th minute. The quality of them, I like Graham Zusi. He's a good player, and I think he could become a really nice player going forward. Sasha Kleshchen and Maurice Adu, I'm not sure why they were placed on the field, and maybe it shows the lack of depth and quality with this team going forward. Badly missed Donovan, badly missed him. No matter what he's going to do, when he's going to come back from his vacation, he was badly missed. And I think in a game like this, major question marks have to be asked why Bocanegra wasn't starting. He is your leader. He is, say whatever you want about trying to turn over a new leaf. He should have been playing centre back in this game. Anybody would have thought that beforehand, and it was exposed on the goal. So major question marks for Klinsmann, and still we don't know whether he's going to be there in charge before they even get to the World Cup. It's going to be fascinating to watch, but that's the beauty of the Hex, right? It's a long process, but this is far from a good start for the Americans.
Do you think the MLS offseason is any excuse for the U.S.'s performance today?
Absolutely not. No, I don't. I'm not buying that at all. I think that they should have been prepared. They were. I think the key players. You look at Bradley, Dempsey, Altidore, Jones. Cameron, Howard, the spine of this team. They're not playing. They're all playing. They're not. This is not their off season. So no, I don't think that's any excuse at all. So big concerns for the Americans going forward. And let us know, #Footy chat out there, what you guys think about the performance today in Honduras. It is time now to talk some African Cup of Nations, and joining me on the line, my good friend, my Ghanaian buddy, Gary Alsmith. How are you, sir?
Doing well, thank you very much. How are you two?
I'm doing okay, thank you. Probably much better than you. Now, for those out there who haven't heard Gary on our show before, Gary is media extraordinaire over in Africa, writer, radio host. He's an expert on all things African soccer. You can follow him at Gary Alsmith. Gary was in Nelspruit for this game today. Ghana won, Burkina Faso won. Burkina Faso beating Ghana on penalties. Before we get to the game, Gary, as a Ghanaian, how disappointed are you in your team?
Well, as a Ghanaian and an Arsenal fan, I've been able to dust myself off, and I am pretty much I've moved on, trust me, because being an Arsenal fan means getting disappointed in the most extraordinary ways, week in, week out, so I'm pretty much used to it. But I can tell you that for my other Ghanaian friends who had high hopes of beating Burkina Faso, it's quite galling. But they are taking some consolation in the fact that, they were beaten by a better team, by 100-1 in terms of ratios. Burkina Faso were the better team. The ref was simply atrocious. But most of my Ghanaian friends just concede that Ghana did not play well, not just in this game, really, but in the entire tournament. Ghana really have not hit the third gear and needed at least 3 penalties in among their 7 goals scored to be able to get this far in the tournament, which is the semi-final. So that's pretty much it for most of the Ghanaian people.
You make some excellent points. Before we get to the game itself, how about this Ghana team? What are they? Are they in transition under their new coach? Is this about what you expected them from them this tournament with a bunch of young players? And please tell me Kevin Prince Boateng isn't going to come back on a white horse for the World Cup.
Oh, thank God somebody agrees with me. There are some people in Ghana who still believe that, Kev is a world-class player, in their words, and Ghana needs every one of its world-class players to be able to qualify for the World Cup. Or indeed, when they get to the World Cup, Ghana would need every one of its world-class players to be able to execute a good tournament. I totally disagree. I believe that this team that has come this far in the semi-final of the African Cup, and probably were just, a few good displays away from the final or even winning it, are the same team that can play in the qualifiers and go to the World Cup if they want to. Kevin Prince Boateng has grossly disrespected the people of Ghana with the way he came in and was accepted to the World Cup. And then after the World Cup, the guy just vanishes and says that he can no longer play for the national team because, doing the club and national duties is too much for him. And then suddenly when Ghana gets to the African Cup and are very near the World Cup qualifiers, this guy is tweeting, pro-Ghana messages on his Twitter feed anytime Ghana is playing. I mean, it's a slap in the face to all the other players who bust their muzzles and time and jet from wherever they are in the world to come and play for the national team. Those guys who lost today, even though they didn't win, they didn't play as well as the Ghanaians would have wanted, should be regarded with more respect than players and, in my words, gold diggers than like Kevin Prince Boateng. But answering the second part of your question, this Ghana team, there wasn't a whole lot expected of them getting into this tournament for one or two reasons. Ghana's best players in the past year, unfortunately, have not been playing regularly in their clubs around the world, and especially in Europe. You are going to be finding Ghana's best players in the past 2 or 3 years now being benched in their European clubs. This, which is why Ghana's coach brought in at most 10 players for their first time in the African Cup of Nations. And anybody who has followed the African Cup of Nations knows that usually you need a very good blend of youth and experience with more experience and, just about enough sprinkling of youth to be able to balance things. So Ghana brought 10 players who have not even tasted African Cup of Nations action before. And so that is what the build-up was like. And then I was with the team also in their pre-tournament training in the UAE in Abu Dhabi. And Ghana won against Egypt and won against Tunisia as well. But those games were, pre-tournament friendlies. And even though it gave an inkling as to the way Ghana were supposed to play, it was quite clear that the Ghana team needed a lot of work to be done on it. And we saw it throughout the tournament. In the first game, Ghana scored 2 goals and allowed DR Congo to get into it. And then in the second game, it wasn't too good. The third game was against Niger. I mean, if Ghana hadn't played well, everybody would have been surprised. So against Niger, Ghana played the best game, and then getting into the quarterfinals, Ghana needed a penalty again to be able to scrape through against Cape Verde. And then finally, in the semi-final, Burkina Faso, who wanted it more, exposed Ghana. So that's been the story, really.
Yeah, some great points. And Burkina Faso definitely exposed them on this night. Let's get to that game. 3 major refereeing decisions actually went against Burkina Faso. A disallowed goal that looked a very fair goal to me. A penalty decision for Ghana that looked very dodgy. And of course, the sending off of Petroipera near the end of the game for diving when it could have been a penalty as well. You were there. You were at the stadium covering the game. What was the general consensus amongst the media and amongst all the players and staff afterwards about the referee? Is it just a case of incompetence here, or should we be very alarmed, particularly in the wake of the match-fixing news this week?
Well, yeah, I think we should be alarmed because at the post-match press conference, Asamoah Gyan, who is Ghana's captain, was asked about the refereeing and what he thought also about the field, which wasn't too good. And he said, well, Ghana really don't have any excuses, really, because Ghana came into this game to win. And, if you're an African player, this is the kind of pitch you grew up playing in most of the time anyway. So for him, it wasn't really an issue. He thought Burkina Faso wanted it more, were the better team and were the luckier team on the day because they simply did everything right and everything works for them. So that's what he thought. And I also agree. In terms of the refereeing decisions, we should be alarmed. The ref should really hang his head in shame. Even the Ghanaian journalists and the Ghanaian fans in the stadium couldn't really complain, like I said in my intro. They just felt that if even Ghana had qualified into the final, it would not have been a sweet victory. And so that's what it's been. The referee from Tunisia really, really has some cases to answer. I'd be surprised if the yellow card he gave to Jonathan Chopper that resulted in that player being sent off is not reviewed, because the Burkina Faso players and coach have asked CAF to check the video evidence and possibly review that decision so that the player can be in action against Nigeria in the Sunday's final in Johannesburg.
I'm with you. I hope it is reviewed. I'll be astonished if they do rescind it, though. In all the evidence in the matches that we've watched over the years, very, very rarely do I expect some contact like that to be rescinded in terms of diving. But that being said, I hope I'm wrong. As you mentioned, they meet Nigeria, who destroyed Mali 4-1 today in Durban, a comprehensive victory for them. Didier Drogba said after his Ivory Coast team lost to them on the weekend in the quarterfinals, I quote, "I don't see any team that can withstand Nigeria for the rest of this tournament." How big of favourites are they for Sunday's final, Gary?
They're roaring favourites now, especially as Ghana are out. But let me just chip in this, that getting into this game, the conspiracy was that CAF, the Confederation of African Football, journalists, the marketing money, the big companies all wanted a Ghana-Nigeria final. And the referee today did nothing to dispel that notion, because if Ghana and Nigeria had played a final, trust me, it would have been huge in terms of commercial revenue, in terms of exposure, in terms of everything. It would have been massive, because Ghana versus Nigeria is one of the biggest rivalries in African football. And so getting into that game against Burkina Faso, Nigeria are going to be roaring favourites. But on the evidence of the way Burkina Faso have knocked out their two opposition in their last game and then against Ghana going into extra time, you have to fancy Burkina Faso's strength of will against Nigeria also, who are becoming a resurgent team all of a sudden. But it must be said that Burkina Faso may be too tired probably on Sunday, because, they've played extra time twice and gone to the penalty shootout twice. And that's basically what people are saying, that they might be too tired and it might inure in Nigeria's favour. So Nigeria are favourites for that game on Sunday.
And this Nigerian team didn't even qualify for the African Cup of Nations a year ago. What an incredible turnaround. What's been the pinpoint for their success here in the turnaround so quickly, Gary?
The pinpoints, the thing we can pinpoint to particularly is their own reaction to criticism. Their media back home has been relentless in bashing them. It's been absolutely crazy. They've been calling for the coach's head right from game one, because people say he doesn't know what he's doing. Some of the most influential Nigerian ex-players have been saying that the coach doesn't know what he's doing. He shouldn't be playing Mikel in the playmaker role. He shouldn't be doing this. He shouldn't be doing that. And it was all for the Nigerian players to prove people wrong, and that's exactly what they've done. If you look at the other game they played against Cote d'Ivoire, it was total domination. People haven't seen Nigeria play like that in years, And people thought that on the back of that victory as well, there was going to be complacency coming into today's game. It was a total turnaround as they simply destroyed Mali. Seydou Keita and the guys did not have any idea of what was going on. Nigeria truly have the momentum going for them. And it's just a reaction to public pressure and public disbelief back home that they can do anything. And it's not that they are a good team. Trust me, even though they are in the final, this Nigerian team are still rebuilding. Actually, they brought 17 players who have never played in the African Cup to this competition. Can you imagine? Only 6 out of their 23 players have ever played in an African Cup, and that's an astonishing feat for a team that's going into the final, Chris.
It certainly is. It's a fantastic point you make, and you were right. They were brilliant against Ivory Coast to end their 25-game unbeaten run. Final question, Gary, before I let you go to bed. I know it's late out there. How has it been, South Africa? Has it been a wonderful host for this tournament? I know, obviously, just 2.5 years fresh after hosting the World Cup. Have the people embraced it? Has it been a real success?
In terms of facilities and infrastructure, obviously South Africa have the best facilities in the world. They have a beautiful country whose tourism can match any European city or any Asian city out there. So in terms of hospitality and service, they are up there, they are top notch. Everybody wanted to come to South Africa because you are assured of that. In terms of the fans themselves, obviously the kind of marketing they have ensure that games of the host nation were always sold out, and the reception for the national team was brilliant. For the other national teams, obviously the African Cup of Nations is notorious for having a lot of, poorly attended games if it's not involving the host or some of the big heavyweights. But it's not been anything as different as we would expect from any other Cup of Nations. But South Africa have had a great tournament. South Africa are not known really, honestly, to be honest with you, for their friendliness when it comes to organizing these things. So, but they've been okay. They've been fine. It's not the kind of reception you would have expected in, say, Ghana or Egypt or Tunisia or Nigeria if they were hosting the tournament. But it's been a good tournament so far.
Nigeria and Burkina Faso move on to Johannesburg for Sunday's final, as does our guest, Gary Alsmith. Gary, safe travels, get some sleep. Thanks for your wonderful insight and continue the great work, okay?
Okay, thank you very much, and be with you some other time.
Thank you very much. That's Gary Alsmith joining us on the line from Nelspruit, where it should be noted it is almost 2 a.m, but he's had a very busy day, and as you can tell, a hectic time in Nelspruit, where his beloved Ghana were knocked out by the better side, let's be fair, in Burkina Faso. But thanks to Gary for joining us, and hopefully you enjoyed some of that insights. But it was a hectic game, wasn't it, Will? An incredible game that went to penalties.
Yeah, and I should add there's a tweet, Footy Chat tweet from Lucas Pancari, who says, if the new thing for AFCON is to have a super surprising team in the final each time, I'm all for it.
Yeah, it's a good point, because, I mean, they needed something like that. Because of the change of the calendar, we've actually got the African Cup of Nations for the 3rd time in the past 4 years, which, let's be honest, it's overkill. It's far too much. We don't need that going forward. But thankfully, we've got 2 new teams here. Burkina Faso have never been in a final, and Nigeria, I know it's their 7th, but this is, as we said earlier, this has been a real turnaround for them. They didn't even get to the last tournament. So they did meet in Group C action on the January the 21st that ended in a 1-1 draw, with Burkina Faso scoring in the 94th minute to get a point in Group C. But as we said to Gary, Nigeria will be the big favourites for Sunday's final. So everybody out there, enjoy that. So should we get to some friendly action, Will?
Sure. There were plenty.
There's these massive games, 35 in all. Where do you want to start? I was thinking maybe Nepal 0, Pakistan 1, or do you want to go with Rwanda 2, Uganda 2?
Did Jaffa Khan score for Pakistan?
Didn't check, but I've got a good chance that there's a good chance that he did score. But yeah, 35 friendlies in all. Let's start with your take on this. Did you enjoy them?
The friendlies today? Yeah. It was pretty good. There were some good matchups, which I enjoyed. England, Brazil, Netherlands, Italy, Germany, and France. There were some good ones.
Right. Yeah, there's some tasty matchups.
So that was enjoyable from the ones I did see.
Yeah. There's a reason why I started with World Cup qualifying, then African Cup of Nations, and then friendlies. Look, I was always taught from a very young age, and always of the belief that you play international football for your country, you treasure that cap, and every game is a monumental game. It's not a friendly. I hated that word. I used to hate it, but now these are friendlies for me. Just pointless training exercises. Let's have a training match at a major stadium, invite all these people to pay all this money. This game today, I mean, I don't want to rubbish it too much, but it was a Ronaldinho testimonial. What's Ronaldinho doing playing for Brazil? Come on.
He's making his giant return for the 2014 World Cup, no?
Do me a favor. I was having this chat with my friend here, Jose, who's a Chilean in the office, and I was saying what a pointless game it was, and he made a great point, and I don't know what you think about this. He said, I'll tell you what, it isn't pointless for Brazil. And he's right, because they will hate losing this match in Brazil. They're ready to jump off a cliff anytime they lose a game of football. If it's on the beach, they'd be pissed off. They will not be happy losing to England here at Wembley, no matter what the game is. But if you want to take it seriously, Brazil, what are you doing playing this guy, Ronaldinho, and what are you allowing him to push Neymar out the way for on the penalty? Ronaldinho missed the penalty, by the way, saved by Joe Hart. But come on, if you want me to take it seriously, how about you play your best players? That's what I would say. People coming off at half-time, unlimited substitutions, big deal. Yeah. I mean,
well, if you look at the rest of the Brazil squad, I think that was pretty accurate.
Well,
to what they're looking forward to in a couple of years or in a year and a half's time.
Yeah, I mean, obviously there's pressure from the governing body to put the pressure on these football associations to play the major players. We only have to go to Doha in Qatar, that massive footballing hotbed, to see the game today between the game of champions, the Copa American champions Uruguay against the European champions in Spain. All these fantastic players being paraded out there in Qatar. Why? Because of money. It's all down to money.
I heard, what was it? Qatar bought that game. It was supposed to be held elsewhere.
Was it?
But Qatar dished out the money, so they brought all those guys down.
I don't know. Muslera with another howler.
Yeah.
Failing to catch Fabregas's goal, made it 1-0. Christian Rodriguez tied up at 1-1, and then Spain ran out 3-1 winners. But yeah, I mean, forgive me if you're listening to this podcast, and obviously you are listening to this podcast as a big soccer fan, but just forgive me for being a little bit negative. That's not me by nature, but I don't know. You can't take these games. You know why else you can't take these games seriously? Tell you why. Jonathan de Guzman played for Holland today, right? Came on, played for Holland. Did you know he could still play for Canada?
Really?
Yeah.
How's that so?
Because it's not an official game. It's not a competitive match.
I thought it was any official senior appearance as a cap.
It's not a competitive game.
Well, Ashley Cole got his 100th cap.
I know, you get caps.
Okay.
Yeah, this is the thing, what they've done now. So Ashley Cole gets his cap. Ronaldinho got his cap. By the way, that's a joke. Ronaldinho got his 100th cap today, according to Brazil. It was his 95th. He played 5 games, I don't know, against Beach United in Rio or whoever he played against. These exhibition games that didn't count.
Yeah, that's as organized as our Premier League pool that we have going.
There you go. Yes. Shout out to the webmasters and our former employees for botching that up today. But yeah, I don't know. It just doesn't. These games, they'll be forgotten as quickly as they're played.
Now, I don't understand that. So De Guzman can play for Canada if
Well,
he
he's
wanted
never
to.
going to play. I mean, I don't want to get anybody else's hopes up again, but it's not an official game in terms of being... So my example is this. Omar Gonzalez, okay? Obviously, he's not 100% blooded American player. He got an official cap today. It wasn't his first cap, but it was his first competitive game playing for the US. So there's this phrase now that I don't like going around. He's been cap-tied. So he's cap-tied.
Right.
So Omar Gonzalez can never play again for another country other than the US.
Right.
Because it was an official World Cup qualifier. So there's just these level of games. I don't know. I don't want to bang on the drum too much. I don't get all negative here, but yeah. But some decent games out there, I guess. How did you feel about Pakistan's win in Nepal?
Well, after seeing Jaffa Khan's picks for the World Player of the Year, I was a little concerned, but he really came through there. There were some good games today.
Verratti scored a screamer, I think. A good goal for Italy, 90th minute. Good for him.
Yeah, and obviously the focus there earlier was Balotelli and El Shaarawy's partnership up front, and after a good game for AC Milan on the weekend,
yes.
All eyes were on them, but I don't think they ended up producing too much in this round. I have a question for you. Do you think Balotelli and El Shaarawy, you think they will be the focus for Italy up front come Confederation Cup time and then a year later in the World Cup?
I don't see why not. I think, look, I've been very impressed with El Shaarawy's development. Whenever we talk about forward partnerships these days, one of them is, if you're going to play them together, one of them has got to have the ability to play in a wide right or wide left role. So, we're no longer in that era where you can play 2 strikers up front for a major European or any major international country these days. And El Shaarawy, for me, is a good player without the ball. He's got great pace. He can play out on the left-hand side. He can cut in. Balotelli's a central figure. We've seen it at Manchester City. He's been exposed when used in wide areas. So, yeah, it's a long answer to a very short and good question. I think that you're right. I think they can play together going forward. And why not? They bring a lot of strength, the pace of El Shaarawy, and obviously the ruthlessness in front of goal of Balotelli, providing they can keep him happy.
That's a good long answer to my short question.
Yeah.
How about this one? Greece 0, Switzerland 0. Would you say this is the most predictable result in world footballing history?
Yeah, that is pretty predictable. Yeah, I'm not quite sure if I would have watched that if they played that in my back garden, to be honest. But as I said, there's a stretch for these pointless matches, and then when you can't even entertain the people who are there by scoring one freaking goal, Greece and Switzerland, do me a favour. I heard a major England star who didn't play today had some comments about Neymar. Is that right?
Yeah, I'm looking at his Twitter feed right now. One Joseph Barton He had a couple tweets about Neymar. He said, "This Neymar fella is massively overrated, not in the same street as Messi or Ronaldo." And then he continued on to tweet about Neymar some more, saying, "I wouldn't pay the 40 to 50 million pounds they're asking for Neymar. Not a chance. Hashtag show pony."
Oh, come on. My goodness me. Now, there's an example why the Ballon d'Or is flawed, because footballers vote on other footballers. This dumb footballer who's seeing him probably for the first time ever. How many minutes has he watched Neymar play in the past? 0. He's based this in his opinion on the first half at Wembley in a friendly game, calling him a show pony. Oh, and he's not in the same street as Messi and Ronaldo? Well, nobody is. What a joke. That's a ridiculous thing to say. He might well be the 3rd best player in the world, and you know what? He might not be. He might be the 15th, but he's no show pony. And this guy, Joey Barton, ain't fit to lace Neymar's boots. This guy's a disgrace. Well, honestly, I love that. The only reason why I saw this is because people I follow retweeted this moron. An absolute moron. Don't bother following this clown. He's tweeting stupid stuff like that. Goodness me. Joey Barton evaluating footballers. Go eat a Big Mac at 6 a.m. or something, what you usually do.
Well, when Joey Barton becomes England captain and gets to vote for the Ballon d'Or, you better watch out.
Goodness me. That's just pathetic. Show pony. It's a freaking friendly. Should be a show pony. Entertain people.
But England beat Brazil, so England are going to win the World Cup.
They are, yeah.
England are ranked 6th in the world at the moment. You know where Brazil are?
Ugh.
Brazil are ranked 18th in the world at the moment.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. Brazil, they have got a long way to go if they want to compete at this World Cup.
Clearly 18th. So that means they won't even make the knockout stages then in their own World Cup, right?
No, they're not going to make it out.
They're not top 16. So not going to make it. FIFA rankings. Oh my goodness. I think we've hated a lot today, haven't we? We've hated on a lot of things, but thankfully we had Gary Alsmith on the show to brighten things up. Got anything else for us, Willie, there before we wrap up? Tomorrow we're on the Footy Show. We are back, James and I. We will recap the action in the African Cup of Nations in Honduras and at Wembley. We will be joined by Declan Hill, the investigative journalist who's led everybody in this story. This guy knows more about this whole story than anybody on the planet. So we'll be joined by the brilliant Declan Hill to talk all things match fixing. And we'll have our usual 10 in 10 as we preview the Premier League games coming up this weekend. So that will be on the Footy Show TV-wise, 2:30 and 6 o'clock in Canada.
Right.
On the score.
2 more producer's notes for me before we go. One, in the Sweden-Argentina match, a fan came on the field to give Messi a hug, and this is actually common. This has happened a couple times recently, which just drives me nuts. I know.
Scum. Get off the field.
Yeah, Messi is revered and everyone loves him, but
get off the field.
Yeah, you can't go on there and touch the guy. And there was another incident, I think, in one of the lower leagues. What was it? A fan came over and knocked over a goalkeeper recently.
Yeah, it was in the game on the week on Monday night.
Yes,
the lower leagues in England. Yeah,
I think it was Gillingham.
Yeah.
So
these fans,
get yourselves together and
stay in your seats.
Out of the field, please.
You know, this is the other thing. These people, they might be wanting to come on and give Messi a hug, you know, but there might be just one scumbag who's going to do what they did to that dickhead did to Monica Seles, and then what's going to happen? You know what's going to happen? Football fans are going to be sitting behind fences again everywhere. And that's the problem. One guy could spoil it and ruin it for everybody. It sounds crazy, but we only have to have one complete and utter lunatic come on the field. Who knows what he's carrying? We cannot, as a society, allow anybody to get close to a player on the playing field during this. Who knows what could happen? It's scary and it's very dangerous. Sort it out.
It amazes me to see this still happening, and it seems like it's even happening more commonly than before now, which that seems like they're taking a big step backwards in terms of the stewards and security in the stadiums. So last note for me, Ronaldo turned 28 yesterday, Cristiano Ronaldo.
He did.
There was a nice shot of his cake, nice, with strawberries on it. Looked very nice, and I'm doing this because Charmin's not here today, but when Messi turns 26 in June, that cake will be much better. I'm sure. It's tough for Ronaldo to have the second best cake in the world, but
it is.
Again, Messi will have him beat.
Messi will have him beat. Yeah,
that was for you, Sharms.
It will be just a little bit better. Just a little bit better cake. I mean, Ronaldo's cake, I'm sure, was world class, one of the best cakes ever. But Messi's will just be a little bit better and just a little bit more expensive. Yes,
tastier.
Tasty. I'm hungry for some cake. I'm going to go get some cake.
Me too. That's a very good idea.
There we go. Let's wrap this up. Thanks for listening, everybody. Once again, my thanks to Gary Alsmith, who joined us practically in the middle of the night in South Africa as he probably drowning his tears in a beer in some Nels Fruit bar. But yeah, we'll be back tomorrow for the Footy Show. Thanks for listening and sleep well.